Welcome to Second Take, the show that focuses on the issues behind the news. The world's biggest mining company, BHP Billiton, has agreed a 10 billion rand 5-year liquid metal supply contract with the black-controlled consortium, giving the industry a shot in the arm. Mining Weekly editor Martin Creamer tells us more. Welcome, Martin.
Thanks, Shannon.
BHP Billiton has reached a definitive agreement to sell its Bayside cast house to Isizinda Aluminium. Can you tell us about this?
Yes, I'm very pleased about this deal because we started worrying about the aluminium industry when BHP Billiton closed the Bayside smelter, and the aluminium price is not really conducive to big expansions, and everything seems to be marking time on our east coast, and there's a lot of uncertainty because BHP Billiton actually is creating this newco where they will demerge that part of their business. And I think it really was incumbent on them to do a solid deal, and they certainly have done this with Isizinda, which is a black-controlled company that is really keen on promoting aluminium beneficiation. And the shareholding of that is 60% black and 40% Hulamin, which is on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. And having that sort of partnership is really solid in South Africa's context because Hulamin has really got huge experience and wants that metal. So the cast house has now been sold off to Isizinda, which will then sell the slabs onto Hulamin. And that's 96,000 tons a year. And it will come in liquid, to be transported in liquid form from the Hillside smelter, which is BHP Billiton's smelter, now part of that newco demerging ring fencing, and come through to the Bayside cast house, and then be sold on to Hulamin. But the idea is that they actually expand that sort of business. So they've got this fantastic offtake from Hulamin. Hulamin then does its semi-fabrication of aluminium and sells it off and is doing well. We saw the shares lift just on this deal. And at the same time, you've got Isizinda saying, no, we want to do a lot more with this. Can we create more downstream activity? And it is headed by Sizwe Khumalo, who has had this passion for some time to do something more with aluminium in KwaZulu-Natal. So he's thinking of also having bigger offtake, from Hillside in time, and creating billet and rod and wire, and doing that within the new Richards Bay industrial development site. So there's this special zone that is in Richards Bay. They have the aluminium. They can now bring the two together and start doing more with aluminium in South Africa, adding value to it. Of course, it's going to have to be competitive. And that is the situation that always confronts South Africa. Can we be competitive on this, particularly with Eastern countries also being involved in aluminium, also doing activities which we are aspiring to now. But one sees a determination, and I must say that in the ahead of the demerger by BHP Billiton, this really sounded good to me when I heard it this week.
Now, Isizinda CEO Sizwe Khumalo believes the company is well placed to further develop the aluminium beneficiation in South Africa. What are his plans going forward?
He's a 47-year-old chemical engineer, and he's been wanting to do more with aluminium for a long time. So he's been talking to the Richards Bay Industrial Development Zone and other parties in the area to say, look, here's an opportunity. We can add value. There is this policy of the country to beneficiate. We have this going. It's there for the taking, so let's do more with it. The jury is still out as to exactly how much he'll do, but 96,000 tons a year going to Hulamin. He's looking at another 96, coming into a new stream of beneficiation activity. We hope that he will succeed, and obviously with a big company like BHP Billiton involved, they're also going to give a helping hand, because once the demerger takes place, the newco will own this Hillside aluminium operation. They will be keen to get more offtake, particularly close by. And then, of course, they've also got Mosel in Mozambique. So this is quite a nice hub of aluminium activity that we have there, and it should get a stimulus from what's happening.
Now, moving on to BHP Billiton's newco, are the plans moving ahead as they were expected?
Yes, at the conference at which they announced this deal, which really involves this 96,000 tons of liquid aluminium going to the cast house, worth about 10 billion rand a year, or 10 billion rand over 5 years. They also gave an update on newco, and they were still very upbeat about it, which was something that South Africans appreciated, because I think BHP Billiton is going about this in a very professional way. They say that, by May next year, they should be ready for a vote on the issue. The listings have been expanded. So the main listing of this newco, which still has to be named, and I think that is probably getting a lot of attention, get the right name at the moment, will be in Australia. So they'll have the main listing in Australia, and then inward secondary listings, not only in South Africa, but also in the UK. There was quite a lot of demand in the UK. The side issues that many people want these assets. We saw a report in the papers this week, saying that the manganese assets were being sought after by South African players, in the Northern Cape, close by to Hotazel. They see these very good manganese assets there, and they're keen to get them. Will this stop newco going forward? It doesn't seem to be the case. Newco has got so much momentum now. They are aware that these are good assets. They are aware that they're first and second quartile cost assets, and they're aware that people will want them. But the momentum of this new listing is going ahead. And unless there's some big change in the commodity prices and the situation in this market, and there are many markets here, because it's not just aluminium that newco is involved with, but it's also our energy coal, it's the manganese, it's silver, and coking coal in Australia, and nickel in Colombia. So it's got a geographical spread. The momentum is such that it looks like it's going to go ahead unless something very different happens in the world.
Or the vote doesn't go ahead.
Yeah, and we should see something of a demerger coming through in mid-year next year, which will give investors in South Africa, a new target of investment. And there seems to be considerable enthusiasm around it, although mining in general and mining markets, are not the flavor of the month at the moment. But it's a cyclical business, and people understand that, and I'm sure that we should, in the course of things, if nothing goes wrong, see a listing mid next year, secondary listing in Joburg, primary listing in Australia, of all these demerged assets from BHP Billiton.
Exciting times.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thanks very much, Martin. That's it for today. Join us again next week for more news analysis on South Africa's mining industry.